Hi, my name is Kelly Snyder. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about fractions. Now, fractions can be a sticking point for young children, so it's important to develop understandings about them using pictures instead of thinking of it as two numbers separated by a line or memorizing the terms numerator and denominator. When children begin working with fractions, it's important they know a few standard things. First is that fractions describe equal parts. So when I take this pink bar, if I divide it into 3 pieces, they must be equal pieces. So in this way, this would not describe thirds for this bar. The second one is that when comparing fractions, you have to make sure that the wholes are the same. I couldn't compare this circle to this bar, or a fourth of this circle to a third of this bar. The third important piece is that equivalent fractions cover the same area because they come from the same whole. So half of this circle covers the same amount as 2/4 of this circle because they came from the same whole and describe the same area. Let's start by talking about fractions of regions. Those prove to be a little bit easier because you're just separating one object or shape into parts. So when I take this bar and broke it into 2 pieces, each piece would be called a half. If I took the same bar and broke it into 4 pieces, each piece would be considered a fourth. Working with fractions of sets can prove a little more difficult because the set is already divided into different pieces. So when I have to find a third of this set, I would have to separate out my pieces to show groups of 3 and then say that 1/3 of this set is 3 objects. Knowing multiplication and division is helpful when trying to find fractional parts of a set. The last visual we'll use is a number line. Being able to place the different fractional pieces on a section of number line from 0 to 1 and being able to place 1/3 on there helps you see that 1/3 takes up less space than 1/2, or that having 2/3 would be more than 1/2. When kids start to talk about equivalent and comparing fractions, a fraction kit is a nice tool to have. You can make them by using a strip and breaking it into 2 pieces to show halves, the same whole by breaking it into 3 pieces to show thirds, or the same size strip into 4 pieces to show fourths. In that way, I can take 2 of the fourths and lay them on top of the half to prove that they are equivalent fractions because they cover the same area. Or I could use 2/4 and compare it to 1/3 since they come from the same whole to prove that 1/3 is less than 2/4. The fraction kit also proves helpful when students begin to add and subtract fractions. It's a nice visual to help students understand why when you add fractions the denominator stays the same. I might have 1/3 of the bar plus 1/3 of the bar to come together to show 2/3 of the bar. Or another example is to have 1/4 of the bar, another fourth of the bar, maybe even the 3rd fourth of the bar to show that it's 3/4 of the bar. You can use lots of different things around your house to practice fractional parts. You can take a granola bar and separate it into halves or thirds, or take a set of fruit and look at its fractional parts. I hope these activities have proved helpful for your children at home. Thank you so much for joining us.